Right.
Yeah, we're good. So, yeah, but it has all the agenda items. And then the last.
We were in Canada. To the store. And I asked the gentleman, this thing is oh my God. Yes, indeed. All right. Dig in.
Yeah.
I mean, by the. And then.
To respect our time and the time, and also respect the parking meters at the Oregon Zoo. They turn on at 9:30, so we start paying parking at that point. So welcome, everyone. It's really nice to have you here today for this joint meeting between the Metro Council and the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. I'm honored to be able to be here and join you today. And I want to also welcome those of you that are in our audience today that are virtually joining our meeting, the staff and the other elected officials that are interested in the work that we're doing here today. So my name is Shirley Craddock. I sit on the Metro Council and I chair the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. This is an official meeting, so we're going to call roll today, both for the Metro Council and for JPACT. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go through that process. And then I'm going to introduce Deputy Council President Christine Lewis, who will open up the meeting for us. So first person in order today is Metro Council President Lynn Peterson, who I happen to know is excused today. Councillor Duncan Wong, I believe, is also excused. Councillor Garrett Rosenthal. Aye, okay, thank you, sir. Councillor Mary Nolan, District 5, okay, thank you. And then Councillor Juan Carlos Gonzalez. Present. Thank you. And then Deputy Council President Christine Lewis. Here. Thank you. And of course, my name is Shirley Craddock. I'm going to go on now to the JPACT group. So our first person on our agenda today is Multnomah County Commissioner Jessica Vega Peterson. I know that she had to decline today. Washington County Commissioner Nafisa Fai. I believe she's going to be here soon. Clackamas County Commissioner Paul Savas. Welcome, just walking in the door. City of Portland Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. And I know Chris Warner, you're sitting in for her today, her chief of staff, so thank you, okay. The cities of Multnomah County, Mayor Travis Stovall. Here. Welcome, sir. The cities of Washington County, Mayor Steve Calloway. Here. Thank you. The cities of Clackamas County, Milwaukee City Councilor Kathy Heisey. Here. Council President, thank you. The Department of Transportation, Ryan Winsheimer, Region 1. Present. Thank you, sir. And General Manager Sam Dessou, TriMet.
Here, good morning.
Welcome. Port of Portland, Curtis Robinhold. I know that he had to decline. And then, of course, I'm going to go back through our Metro councilors. Metro Councilor Juan Carlos Gonzalez, happen to know he's here. Metro Councilor Christine Lewis, happen to know that she's here. So, and then Department of Transportation, Washington Department of Transportation, Carly Francis. I know she had to decline. The City of Vancouver, Mayor McInerney Ogle. Present. Thank you. Welcome. And Clark County Councilor Temple Lenz. I know she had to decline. Okay, I'd like to turn the podium over to our Deputy Council President, Christine Lewis.
Thank you so much, Councillor Craddock. Good morning. I'm here not only as a JPACT member, but also in place of our Council President, Lynn Peterson, who is taking a much and well-deserved vacation. So I'm standing in her place to welcome us and help set the stage as our Deputy Council President. The people of our region have told us time and time again that they want a better transportation future. No matter where they live, where they go, they need to be able to get there safely and reliably. Transportation literally connects the issues people care most about in our region. Housing, economic opportunity, the cost of living, impacts to growth, safe communities, and air quality, equity, and climate. Transportation shapes our communities and our everyday lives. And we know intrinsically what we need to do to keep our transportation network. We need to provide access to reliable transit, safe biking and walking connections, streets and highways where traffic flows safely and efficiently. We need a system that connects us and the goods and services we depend on, and that helps keep nature and recreation opportunities within reach. The Regional Transportation Plan is our most critical tool in shaping our transportation future. It's a blueprint to guide investments for all forms of travel, motor vehicle, transit, bicycle, etc., walking, and the movement of goods and freight throughout the region. It's also an important tool for how we achieve our vision for future growth and how we focus on achieving our climate goals. In Oregon, transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Addressing climate change is paramount to ensuring our region can thrive into the future and is livable for everyone, including the communities that are hardest hit by the impacts of climate change, people of color, and people with low incomes. This is our RTP for climate. This is it. Let's do it. As we emerge from the disruptions of the pandemic, the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan is how we'll work together to deliver for the future. Together, we can make transportation work for our people, and we can help people feel safer and prevent deadly crashes on busy roadways and on neighborhood streets. We can help people and deliveries arrive on time, and as traffic increases and e-commerce grows, figure out a way that people can still access the things that they need. We can make transit safe, convenient, quick, and affordable. We can make transportation more affordable overall while protecting our climate and creating economic opportunity. Over the last several years, Metro has heard from thousands of community members and decision makers about their transportation priorities. People from across Greater Portland have shared what they need. This 23 RTP update will carry forward and build upon this important input, while also inviting more voices to the table. Our region has a history of collaboration and innovation that has provided clear benefit to our region through bringing home significant federal and state investment. This is once again our opportunity to show how government and community can work together to solve big challenges. I look forward to the conversation today and over the coming months about how we grow, how we identify achievable actions, and make these issues better over the next 20 years. Thank you all for rising early enough this morning to get someplace in person. I'm really glad we've been able to make it happen in as safe a way as we can. Wear your mask, take care of yourself, all of that, but let's have a good conversation today.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis. I'd like to next introduce Allison Brown, who is with the JLA Public Involvement Company Organization, and you're going to be facilitating our discussion today. And so welcome, Allison. Pleased to have you. And please, the podium is yours.
Hi, folks. Good morning. This feels so formal. And I know for so many of you, I've just seen you for the past 2 years on Zoom. So no, I'm not in disguise with my mask and like new bangs, but it is lovely to see you today in person and just very excited to be with y'all today. So my name's Allison. I'll be your facilitator today. So a couple of things I want to run through. The first is welcome to the Future of Meetings, and we are live streamed today. So just some notes for folks as you're at your tables. We do have mics on each of the tables. We're going to spend most of our meeting in a format where I know it's Metro, so we're going to have a short presentation. It'll be like nice and short and concise. And then we're going to do small group breakouts and have some table discussions. When we do, we'll come back together for report out, and the report out here is critical so that the folks who are tuning in to our live stream meeting can also get a sense of the flavor of our conversations. So I am going to ask that when we get to that portion, whoever is doing the report back, like get that mic, get it in front of you, do your thing. You can work together as a table to make sure that that person can be heard. And our folks on AV, also shout out to the folks doing AV today. Thank you so much for your work in getting this all set up. They may give you some gentle reminders on like, hey, closer to the mic, or we can't hear you. Also, when you do report outs, your mics are going to be live. So hot mics on the table, just so you know. And if we do, I mean, also folks are tuning in and watching this at 7:30 in the morning. Thank you. We're so glad that you're here and joining us. A couple of group agreements for our table conversation. JPACT, Metro Council, y'all are pros at this. You know what to do, but I just invite folks to make sure that there's space for each other to speak. You're in groups of 3 to 4. So we have asked somebody at each of your tables to kind of act as a facilitator light, not to like have a heavy hand in directing conversation, but just to ensure that everyone can be heard and to elicit any feedback if somebody's particularly quiet at your table. Also, as Councilor Lewis mentioned, it's great to be in person. It's awesome. And we're in a new world, right? And our personal boundaries are different. I think we've all been shaped by the past couple of years and living through a global pandemic. So I just encourage folks to check in with each other. Masks, we're going to ask that you keep them on if you're not eating or speaking at the podium as I am right now, but also just check in with each other if there are any personal boundaries or folks want to like scoot away and not be so close. Just take care of each other, as Councillor Lewis said. We are also going to aim to get you out of here by 9:25 so that you can scoot out of the parking lot before you have to pay for parking at 9:30. So I'll also be doing some time reminders. And I think, so why are we here? The big goal today, we want to walk out of this room with a clear sense on the priority goals for the 2023 RTP. So we're going to talk first about goals. You've got some large printouts of the goals that really helped inform the 2018 RTP. There's a lot of them. Councillor Craddock and Margie Bradway are both going to walk us through those goals and give a short presentation in a moment. But we would want you to help us prioritize those goals. So JPACT Metro Council, what feels particularly salient in this moment? That'll be our first small group discussion. Our second small group discussion will be around the vision statement. So you have a second printout on your table with the current RTP vision. And we want to ask you, does this need refinement? Are there ways to kind of wordsmith this? And I know this is a wordsmithing activity, I know, but are there things that could be changed in that vision statement to better reflect the goals that you feel are most important in the moment that we're in right now? So if we can walk out of here today with some prioritized goals and an updated or refined vision statement, we have accomplished everything that we hope to accomplish in this workshop. And this is the first in a series of workshops. So Metro Council, JPACT, I know y'all know each other, but you'll have an opportunity over the next few months to really dive deep into 2023 RTP and set the vision for the region when it comes to transportation for the next however many years that this shapes the region. So with that, that's all I'm going to do. I'm around also if any small groups get stuck. I'm happy to come through and help out, talk you through anything, but it's really lovely to see folks in person. I've missed this and I've missed so many of you. So great to see you. Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Craddock.
Thank you, Allison. So if you could go ahead and advance the slide, please. Thank you, Connor. As Allison was saying, as Councillor Lewis was saying, our regional transportation plan plays a fundamental role in guiding the investments in our transportation system, which ultimately shapes our communities. It shapes our region, it shapes our counties. And so these how we plan for the future is so critical to the direction this region wants to go. As Allison was also saying, this serves as a tool for our local and our regional and our state investments and actions towards a common vision for the future, and determines what investments we want to focus on in the next 20-some years. By meeting our federal requirements, the plan also establishes our transportation priorities and makes them eligible for federal funding and state funding. And both the JPACT and the Metro Council are responsible for approving this regional transportation plan. But we are required to update this plan every 5 years, and we do this in coordination with the Department of Transportation, with our regional cities, with our counties, and with our transit agencies. And so Connor, if you go on to the next slide, please. So the RTP is key to where this region is going to go in the next 20-some years. We use it to implement our projects that reflect our regional priorities and our regional goals. And it's and as well as it focuses on and coordinates with our 2040 growth concept plan and our climate smart strategy. The last regional transportation plan was updated in 2018. And I know many of us in this room were not part of that discussion. And so we now have an opportunity to look towards the future for this region. Connor, if you go on to the next slide. Oh, you're already there. Thank you. You're ahead of me. So we're really pleased with the work that we did in the 2018 regional transportation update. During that time, Metro staff did extensive outreach all over the region, engaging with multiple different kinds of groups and different organizations. And during that time, we're over 19,000 touch points with residents and groups in the region. And so we're proud of that. We work in addition, working with our coordinating committees that guide JPACT, working with our state commissions and our legislature. We want to carry on that extensive engagement with this plan, and that will be the beginnings of the next step. So Connor, if you could go on to the next slide. So you can see in the 2018 update, how many different ways we did outreach in the region, and that's what this plan will also incorporate. And so this is the beginning of that discussion. We are establishing our vision for the future and beginning to plan for those workshops and reaching out to the region. So our task today is to outline the vision and the goals for this 2023 update. We are not starting from scratch. We did a lot of work in 2018. And so we want to take what we did with that plan and now update it to make it work with the future of this region. And we recognize that 2022 is a lot different than what was happening in 2018. And so we want to make sure that this vision really fits where we're going in the future and what we are today. So that's what this is all about today. It's a really important day, and I appreciate you taking the time and to be here to help us begin that discussion. So I'm going to now introduce Margie Bradway, who's Deputy Director of Metro's Planning, Development and Research Department, to begin to review those 2018 regional transportation goals to get us started on the next 5 years. So Margie, welcome.
Hi, good morning. Great to see so many of you that I have not seen in person in a while. So we are, I don't know whose slide this is, but I'm just going to speak to it real quick. Here we are in the process. So we're early on developing the 2023 RTP. I really appreciate Councillor Craddock, Chair Craddock, giving the background on 2018 RTP. I think it's just context, but I also want to emphasize with this group that you can own and shape the future of what you think needs to be for 2023. So we are going to today shape some of those goals. I will tell you that the current goals in the 2018 RTP, I'm going to walk through them. They're also on your table, have been carried from RTP to RTP. Do you know what happens when you carry stuff forward and forward? The list becomes longer and longer and more robust. I think I'm interested in narrowing and focusing this list. So I want to be really clear that this is not this is open for change. This is open for focus. This is open for narrowing, or, saying none of this is really relevant today. We can start over. I just want to make that clear if that's what speaks to you. So what we've had carried over from RTP to RTP. So that's either every 4 years or every 5 years, or the 11 that you see here. I'm not going to describe each one because they're on your table in this long list, but we've got vibrant communities, shared prosperity, speaking to the economic importance of our region, transportation choices, reliability and efficiency, safety and security, healthy environment, healthy people, climate leadership, which was added, I believe I think that was added in 2014, equitable transportation, fiscal stewardship, transparency, and accountability. So you can almost imagine how this list has gotten longer over time. As issues are added. And so I think this is it's a good starting point for your conversation. Think about this list, what needs to be improved, added, taken off as we go into the discussion. So think about the future, knowing what we did in the past. I think that's it, right? Allison, is there anything else? Okay, great. This is on your table, and we really, from staff perspective, really want you to own this conversation today. So I'm really excited to see what you guys have to say. Thanks.
All right, folks, well, let's get into it. You have those goals on your table. So we're going to come back together. We're going to spend about half an hour to 40 minutes together talking through these goals. So as Margie said, these are open for changing. I'd invite folks, if you see places to consolidate goals or that they might fit together naturally. I think if anybody in here has done a TSP or been a part of any sort of visioning exercise, you know that the more goals you have, the more challenging it is to set those objectives, keep the process going. So we do want to consolidate if possible and prioritize. So on your table together, I'm sure that folks will have different priorities, but we're going to ask you to see if you can come to agreement in your small groups on what your table priorities are. So what's rising to the top for folks? Where are there opportunities to consolidate, and also why? We're going to bring you back for a report out. So also play that game where you decide who's going to do the report out. So you're ready to go, and share with us what you came up with and a brief snapshot of your rationale. And again, this is part of making sure that the folks who are tuning in from the public, probably many of your staffers who are in the audience, both in the live stream and here today, can also hear a sense of the flavor of your conversation. Any questions before we get started? Yes, Councilor Nolan.
So can you give us a little guidance?
Yes.
Are we aiming to cull this list of 11 goals down to 10 or to 3?
I'm looking a little bit to Margie here, but I think it's kind of open to what you feel is right. But Margie, do you have more specific instructions for folks?
No, it's what you feel like is right. So if you or your table feels like we've got 2 that are the most important, well then tell us that. But if you really feel like you have 5 or 6, or you may feel you want to add to the list. So there's no rules for this. I think, as Allison said, the less you have, like, more takeaways we have to staff. No rules to this exercise.
Yeah, and I'd be curious if you do find as a group that there are 10 goals that are really important, why? You know, like what is it about those 10 that really feel salient, knowing that 2022, 2023, like the world has changed. We're in a different world, and we're a different moment, and we're not starting from scratch, but certainly things are not the same as they were in 2018, as Councillor Craddock said. Other questions? All right, rock and roll. Let's do it. Mics are also going to be off during this portion, so feel free to kind of discuss at your leisure, and we'll bring mics back up when we come back for report out. I'll bring you back together in about half an hour. So have fun. Folks, just a heads up. I'm going to bring you back together in about 5 minutes. All right, folks. JPACT, Metro counselors, how y'all doing? Did you have a good conversation? I saw notes being taken. Yeah, folks got kind of far enough for today. Cool. Well, let's come back together and do a report out. So I'd love to hear, what was the flavor of your conversation? Particularly interested if you did find opportunities to consolidate any goals. What goals did you consolidate? And tell us kind of what you came up with, what alchemy you came up with in your consolidation. And then I'd love to hear some of your priorities. To the point that Councillor Nolan made, some of you may have said all of these are actually priorities. You don't have to go through all of them, but just tell us kind of how many of these rose to the top. And if you did have a couple that really crystallized for your group, is these feel like the key priorities, the top 3 or the top 4, please tell us about that. So love to hear what y'all came up with. And then we'll transition into talking about the vision statement. So I think with that, we're going to make sure that the mics are live at each of the tables. We do have some folks texting who are watching our live stream. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. But I think they're going to let us know if we can't hear at the tables, but the mic should be able to pick up your conversation. So I think our mics are now all live. And does any group want to start us off? Okay. Yes, please.
So we want to start off, our group had some very live conversation. We were all engaged and stakeholders. So let's start there. This is a beginning, and we wanted to make sure that any goal that moves forward is achievable, and we wanted to pare the list down. Our priority was, we all agreed at the table, was safety and security. To have a very safe transportation system. Our communities need to be safe. You know, we have a lot of tragedies that we want to make sure we deal with, crashes and things like that. So we combine our lists. First of all, goal number 1 with the vibrant communities, we decided to remove and make that part of the vision statement. We combined goals 2, 3, 4, and 9 all together. And we felt that the 4 goals would become goal number 1. Goal number 2 would be our safety and security. as goal number 2. So we pared down to 5 goals totally from the list. Goal number 3 would be combining goal 6, which is a healthy environment and healthy people. Goal number 4 would be the climate leader goal. There were some things there that we talked at the table a little bit. This climate goal needs to be enhanced. It needs to include reducing greenhouse gases. It also needs to impact our future generation. So there's some things that we need to enhance in that goal, in goal number 8. And then the last goal was the fiscal stewardship, which was goal number 10. We made it our goal number 5. And then we eliminated goal 11 to look at moving it towards the vision statement.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Excellent. 5 goals. That's great. Anything anybody at that table wants to add or chime in? No? Okay. I'm actually going to ask our AV or whoever's running the PowerPoint slide, can we take it back to the slide that has all the goals just in case? Yeah, this one. Thank you. Just so folks, if you don't have it in front of you, thank you. Cool. Thank you so much. Which group would like to go next? Yes, Counselor Lewis, you saw me kind of giving eye contact to this side of the room.
Well, I mean, we are table number 2 and table 1 just went. So we had a really good discussion and a lot of our kind of natural top priorities from within these goals rose together. Safety and security, climate, although we thought about maybe saying climate and environment, and in that way we could roll up some of the indicators for healthy environment and healthy people into that goal. Equitable, and that includes the shifting of the burdens from goal 11. Reliability and efficiency. I dreamed up a new one called fiscally transformative. And then we had a lively discussion about how goal 1 and goal 2 are written a little bit more visionary and with less of the measurable outcomes that you see in the rest of the goals. And so definitely feel like they could be reflected in vision statement, but also shared throughout some of the remainder of the goals. And I guess that kind of covers most things. Under fiscal stewardship, we were concerned because there's no definition about the best return on public investments. And I think that's one of the places where we actually need to transform our system. And then transparency and accountability. We talked about that being about both this process, that a government planning process, but also about our system. What did I leave out?
Awesome. Thank you, Counselor Lewis, and thank you to table 2. With that, we'll go to table 3 over here.
Nice chronology going here. Well, I think buenos días todos. Good morning, everyone. So table 3 was myself, Counselor Nolan, and Ryan, who stepped away for a quick second. But one of the things that we initially agreed on was that we really needed to focus. And we all kind of agreed it'd be wonderful if we could just come up with 5 goals. It becomes our mantra. And everyone at JPACT on the council, we can always reiterate those goals back to each other and help us focus. We also agreed that we wanted our RTP goals to be proactive and to help us chart a vision for the future. In terms of the bundling, it's we each had a few different approaches, but I tried my best to consolidate those into generally 5 areas that I heard from the table and would love to have folks contribute. The first was kind of an easy one, but we felt like goal 1 and 2 could be combined. And this was my brilliant idea to just call it vibrant and prosperous communities. We had this thought around modernization as well. And modernization, I think, will mean different things to people, but we felt like transportation choices, electrification, safety, like what is it, when we think about a modern system, what fits within that. We thought of obviously of climate leadership as one of the very important goals that we want called out. We talked at great length about racial equity and equitable transportation. I came up with another one that was themes of good governance as well, and I think that's popping up and at other tables. So if I had to kind of try and consolidate those into 5 goals from our table, that's what I'd say I heard. But I would love to hear from Ryan or Councilor Nolan if there's anything else. Thanks.
I might add just one thought, and that is Councilor Gonzalez talked about modernizing, but we talked about anticipating as well, and not just having a transportation plan that reacts to what's happening, but anticipates it and guides it as a way of, Ryan captured this. This is a transportation plan and it should guide how we make investments. And that's going to mean how we make choices among competing investments. And so that should be woven into our value statement or mission statement, as well as each of our goals.
All right, since we're all taking a turn, and the other thing that we mentioned, and I don't want to lose sight of, and it's less about the transportation and more about land use, but it's just understanding that this is a balance of things. And as we continue to think about our land use choices, we need to think about, we only have so much money to serve all these things and invest in our transportation system. So really being thoughtful about how we make those land use choices so that our transportation system can continue to serve those in an efficient way.
Thanks so much, table 3. Table 4, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. We were at the bad table. We didn't follow instructions, but we had a really interesting conversation. I'm glad that everyone else followed instructions because you did more concrete work than we did. But hopefully our observations can inform some of the other thinking. Our conversation ranged around a bit. We talked early on about the need to be forward thinking on incorporating technological advancements into our transportation system. And we also recognize the need to put climate and housing front and center. To Ryan's point, we actually had a very long conversation, I think, about complete communities and transportation networks. This is a table that has the mayor of Vancouver, the mayor of Gresham, and a councillor from Milwaukee at it. So all 3 of us have experience in communities that have different levels of inflow and outflow. We also have 3 other communities that are represented by Councillor Rosenthal here that have similar experiences of lots of people leaving for jobs, lots of people coming in for jobs at the same time. So that built environment piece that is absolutely so critical and has to stay front and center in our thinking, even though this is a regional transportation plan. Our land use does very directly impact all of these things. We're trying to create a system that has the potential to support complete communities. And we also talked about the need for system resilience. And as we're thinking about transportation and having reliable, efficient, attractive transportation options, we need to look at being realistic about how our resources are directed. And so that may mean that while it's not easy to get from Vancouver to Gresham on a bus, that may not be the priority. Maybe the priority is the internal networks of how people get around within the complete community of Gresham, the complete community of Vancouver, and making sure that those people are most directly and efficiently and attractively served by the transportation options that are there. And then targeting the transportation networks between those complete communities so that the service that is being provided meets the needs. Vancouver's done a terrific job of rolling out rapid bus transit, and they have really targeted their programs to serve where the needs are at the times that they're needed. So as much as we want an RTP that can do all the things, it can't do all the things unless we are very focused about how we do this. The other observation we made was just that throughout the goals, there's both the individual experience that comes up in terms of safety, convenience, healthy, affordable, and there's the system and collective sort of experience where we're talking about two different things that are very closely related. So that's just kind of something to keep an eye on as we are revamping these goals. It's wonderful that we had a couple tables that came up with 5. 5 is a great number. And I think as we go through and refine those 5, let's just keep an eye on how is this serving individual? How is this serving system? Are we getting to the place where the intersections between those two interests are strong and resonant? They're reinforcing one another. I said a lot.
Kathy did a great job of consolidating all of our conversations. Just 2 quick things. The emphasis on a system. If you were to look at this table with Gresham on one side, Vancouver on the next, you have 3 counties south of the river, you have 2 counties north of the river. We want to stay within this table, stay within the system. So refining the system is important to us. And that involves all of the work, play, recreation, and shopping. One word that I think is missing from this entire document is the word freight. As we look more and more of what happened in the pandemic, we are seeing that we need the opportunity for freight to move in and out, up and north and south and around our community easily. And I see the word goods in 3 different places, but freight is just a little bit different. Thank you.
I just want to add a couple of things. And first, a minor thing. I think we have to stop thinking of just as the Portland regional system but the Portland Vancouver system, because they're a large member and there's a lot of communication between the two. But I think I wanted to say we basically had the same idea as table 1. We support their idea of consolidation. We thought there was a redundancy that needs to be reduced. We like the idea of table 3, talking about modernization. We probably called it something like adaptability, and technological change. So we had some of those same concerns. When she talked about, complete communities, we also talked about, and this is a concept that I've heard from Councillor Craddock, a complete transportation system, something that we have to focus on connecting to the level that's necessary. In other words, cross-city connections like in Gresham, but also cross-community connections to the level that's necessary, not necessarily at the same level. So that's complete system. And so I think we talked about that. And then I'm going to be a little bit of a nattering nabob of negativism here. I would have to challenge everybody to say, when I read this, I have read the RTP and I wasn't involved in the first time, but I read it and I said, it's a great vision for how the systems should operate, but there was very little vision for what it's going to look like. And I think we need to work on that. In other words, you look at it and you say, well, where are we going to be putting new connectors, how are you going to be connecting these facilities? How are you going to be getting freight out of, say, the Intel Valley, which right now crosses Cornelius Pass, which doesn't seem like a very practical alternative. So there's issues like that. So what is it going to look like? Great on values, great on how it's going to operate, but I would challenge people to think about what is it actually going to look like?
Thank you. So folks, to some of those points that were just made, these are not going away. Thank you so much for doing the work and also for your candor and that you just had a great conversation and maybe didn't consolidate. That's fine. Staff are, there's a lot of staff in the room. We are developing a summary. We're doing minutes. I think there'll be a lot of folks paying attention to the things that you've said today and using their combined brain power to put them together to give you something to respond to that hopefully captures a lot of these key themes that you've raised today. Before we move on to the next piece, talking about vision, which a lot of you already got started on. And again, I'm loving that we're kind of circling around 5 as the magic number for goals here. Margie's also clapping. Margie's really stoked about that. But I'm curious if you have any questions for each other. Yeah, Commissioner Savas.
Mine's a comment, and maybe it is a question actually for consideration. I think we discussed it early on, and that was, how are these goals going to be used, right? If they're going to be used as goals, as we all know goals, then I would organize them like we kind of discussed. If they were priorities, I would organize them differently again. If they were pillars or decision-making, I would organize them again differently and change the wording. So whether they're pillars or filters, or whether it's something we check the box, I just don't know how it's going to be used.
Yeah.
And I think we need something in between.
I see, Margie, I'm going to have you come up to the mic for this one.
Yeah. Great question, Commissioner Savas. So, and I want to just acknowledge that table 3 also asked the same question. So the goals, depending on, so the entire RTP has policies, has plans, and it has projects. So those are the 3 pieces of the RTP. And I like to think of the goals as the lens in which we look at all 3. And I use the words lens because they're going to have different application in different ways. So for example, when we did the regional congestion pricing study, we used the 2018 RTP goals to say which one of these types of pricing help meets our goals. Now that's a planning process. On the project side, on the project list, we do look at these goals as a way of trying to steer investments. And we heard the feedback in 2018, for example, that climate was very important. So after we did our climate modeling run, we went back to all the project owners and operators and said, this is how, your bundle of projects is performing on climate. And to credit to our project partners, they did kind of change some of their project lists to help meet our climate goals. So it's not as, but it is definitely a lens in which we look at all 3. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. If the goals are, let's just say we look at a project.
Yeah.
Of growing our system, right? Are we just going to say, okay, it checks, not checks, but it captures the 3 or 4 of our goals, but not all of them, versus a pillar or a priority, or a filter, like we're checking the boxes. Did it hit all of these marks?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And I just be honest, we have different capabilities of modeling or doing data analysis in different areas. It kind of depends on which kind of area you're focusing on. But in 2018, we were able to do an equity and access to jobs analysis, for example. And we took the projects and said, does this help further access to middle income jobs? And we found that as a whole, the package did. But what we would not do necessarily is pull that one project out. We usually run a model run of the package, or we might do a couple like scenarios of that package. So it's less about one project and more about how the system is operating as a package of projects. Does that answer your question? And I am not a modeler, so I am doing the best I can right now to explain this in kind of my layperson understanding. But it's certainly, these goals are very important. I will say every single policy and plan that our department did, we always start with the RTP goals before kicking off a project. So they're extremely important. Mayor Callaway, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you. First of all, comment to Councilor Rosenthal, way to keep the spirit and the ghost of Spiro Agnew alive, with your comment of nattering nabobs of negatism. I don't think I've heard that since the 70s. So well done, sir. We have our, the draft values and outcomes, or at least I have a copy from, February, and I'm not sure if it was the most recent one. But these are such great values and outcomes. And so how are these melded into the goals that because in some ways these values could just be overlaid easily with the goals.
Thank you. So for those who are not following, there's lots of different processes. When we kicked off the RTP, we tend to, at Metro, start a lot of our transportation projects and plans with a values, outcomes, and actions exercise. So we're grounded in our values. Those do reflect the 2018 values. We started that exercise, but the feedback we got from JPACT was, well, this values, outcomes, and actions exercise is starting to confuse and conflate the goals and objectives which are required for the RTP. So we kind of put, we call it the VOA. We kind of put a hold on that VOA. We said, you know, you're right, TPAC. This is why we have TPAC. They're very helpful. We said, let's hold that draft. Let's carry those ideas, but let's focus on the goals and objectives. So you are absolutely right, Mayor Callaway, that they're meant to inform this exercise, but they are not necessarily the goals and objectives. So thank you for bringing that up.
And I would just like to point, somebody from Metro said I was right.
You were right. You were right. And I have to say that I have seen Councilor Rosenthal's coffee stained copy of the 2018 RTP, and he has in fact read every word. I'm completely blown away. So, you know, 5 stars to Councilor Rosenthal. Yes, Councilor Gonzalez.
I have a question. I'm glad that you're up there, Margie, because it's for you. But you know, one of the, as soon as we started, you know, our process of trying to evaluate, you know, obviously when transportation comes up, one of the first things that we think about is performance. Like, how is this connected to performance? How does this goal translate to modeling, et cetera? Like, which is great that we have a really, you know, measures driven group. But I am kind of curious from your lens, if we had to measure the performance of the 2018 RTP and how the goals performed through TPAC, through JPAC, through just like the governance process at a really high level, like how would you say it helped or hindered, you know, the progress of the region in actually advancing these goals?
Thank you. So we do get into that. So first we will get into, I'd say it's a heavy staff lift technical work. First, we do take an assessment of how many of the projects on the project list we actually built and achieved. And then we do a needs and network analysis up front of where are there gaps in the network, where are the needs. So that work is underway right now. Elliott Rose on the planning side and our modelers, it's very heavy intensive. We're working with TriMet on that needs and gap analysis. And that's how we kind of say, did we do the plans in chapter 8? So did we do the plans we expected to do? Did we build the projects? And then where are the gaps in the system? So you will get that information. Will be brought to both TPACT and JPACT. And that will help us inform the meat of the RTP. Okay, this is your time. Oh, okay. I want to get out of here so you guys can do the work. This is not, you're listening to me too much.
Yeah, I really appreciate Councilor Gonzalez's point there on the measurement, and appreciate the needs analysis that's being done on TriMet. Have we ever thought about doing that for the entire system?
We actually do it for the whole system, and SMART is not here today, but we do that. We kind of do a needs gap analysis. And if you want to talk offline on how we do that, I'm happy to talk with you, Commissioner Savas. Okay, great.
All right, folks, I'm going to keep us moving then to the next piece that we have on our agenda. Again, the goals, these aren't going away. These are coming back. So it's just a pause on this. And turning now to the vision statement. So I think there's a slide that has the vision statement. Yeah, there it is. So some of you in your small groups already started working through this. And typically, I think we would start, and as we were planning this agenda, we were thinking, okay, well, do we start with the vision and then go to the goals, which is kind of typically how you would talk about this stuff. But it felt really important to talk about goals that do have those measurable objectives, and then think, okay, does the vision statement need to be refined in order to capture those goals and make sure that the things that feel really important to this moment, to looking at 2023 and the next 20 years, are those captured in this vision statement? So the vision statement is up on the slide. I'm going to read it out loud. In 2040, everyone in the Portland metropolitan region will share in a prosperous, equitable economy and exceptional quality of life sustained by a safe, reliable, healthy, and affordable transportation system with travel options. So this was approved in 2017. And now, does this statement reflect some of the things that you just spoke to and kind of the moment that we're in right now? So I recognize this is a wordsmithing activity, and you know what they say about wordsmithing in committee. We're not looking for perfection here, but I think are there things that could be incorporated, taken from that list of goals and instead put into something that's visionary? Are there words that don't feel as important? You can cross things out. You can work together on that large printout that's on your table. But we're just curious if you have ideas of how to change, shape, or refine this vision statement to have it best reflect where we are right now. And then as with the goals, staff will be taking this, sifting through your feedback, kind of identifying those key themes and coming back with something that you can respond to and continue to refine as needed. Commissioner Savas, I think your point on like, hey, what are these being used for? Also, Mayor Callaway raising the values. There's a lot of these processy pieces coming up right now, and that's where we are at the start. We're talking about vision, we're talking about goals, and those are certainly overlaid with values that this group has talked about in the past. So lots of those pieces. We'll continue to elevate those questions as they come up. If there are any questions that you do kind of want to noodle through, Margie's around. I think there's other staff around as we get into the second small group breakout. Just flag us and we'll get you what you need if you do want to talk that through. But any questions on what we're doing for our second breakout?
How much time?
Excellent question. So it is 8:49. Our commitment is to get you out of here by 9:25 at the very, very latest. You can grab a snack and go get your car to the parking lot. So I say we'll come together in about 20 minutes for report out. So a little bit shorter session, 20 minutes together. If y'all are like wrapping up early, you kind of get through this, just let us know and we can continue to go earlier and potentially get you out of here even sooner. But 20 minutes, we'll do a report out. So also make sure you have someone who's ready to report back. Mics are going to go quiet on all of the tables so you can converse at your leisure, and we'll bring you back at about 9:10. Cool. See you in a little bit. All right, folks. I'm going to welcome us back together and let's hear a little bit more about what y'all talked about. So we went in chronological order, 1 through 4. Let's start with 4.
We followed instructions this time.
Yes.
So here's what we came up with. It is by no means final, but in 2040, the Portland-Vancouver metro region will have a complete transportation system that prioritizes access to safe, reliable, and healthy transportation options that meet or exceed climate goals.
We're going to let that sit in as folks absorb that. But any additional like context or anything that felt really important as y'all were discussing that, shout out Vancouver. I heard that piece in there.
Yeah, it is time for us to acknowledge that our sister city across the river is really big. So this is a regional system at this point in time. I think other things that we really highlighted that words like access were important, safety and healthy both sort of captured that nexus of the system and the individual experiences that we were talking about earlier. And we also wanted to make sure that we end up with a vision that has ties that go back to deliverables and objectives, some measurable outcomes. So that's sort of how we ended up with climate goals tacked onto the end there. There's probably better ways to do that. And there's probably ways to get measurable outcomes reflected in the vision beyond climate goals, but that's the one we managed to get in there.
Cool. Thank you so much. Table 3.
Okay, we want us to be bold. And we want us also to think of our vision statement as what we share with our various publics to invite and entice them to embrace the work that the transportation plan will represent. So we suggest that the RTP will transform our transportation system by 2040 to sustain a healthy environment where everyone prospers. And we have additional.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, we're embracing the theme of concise, bold language to at least inspire and provoke thought. You know, another thing that we talked about our group was, you know, I think in general, trying to broaden and expand our horizons by 2040. I think that, you know, the I-5 bridge for one, we're starting to talk about impact for 100 years and kind of starting to think in that lens. But also with that, you know, there's a piece about this vision is not only for our constituents and for our plans and, you know, our really talented engineers and leaders and all that, but I would like for this to be a vision for what we tell the world. There needs to be a global context, I think, in terms of world-class infrastructure. What kind of region do we want to be as we go from medium-sized region to large region? And, you know, within that global context, you know, what kind of, how do we as a region want to compete with our infrastructure, you know, and really elevate the region in that sense? So just kind of trying to bring it, make it a little bit more vision, you know, and, you know, with that too, you know, and I'll just be really direct with this group that, you know, I think that I would love for us to come out of this RTP conversation as a unified body and say, okay, you know, and I think many of you know, my history is I'm a nonprofit fundraiser. So vision is a very important tool for me. And this is the tool we're taking to the legislature. This is the tool we're taking to the USDOT as we build that long list of hopefully mega projects for our arterials, for our system, for freight, you know, whatever we need to do to elevate this region. And that's the context that our table talked about.
Thank you. Let's go to table 2.
Sure, thank you. To begin with, we had a discussion around the phrase Portland Metropolitan Region. While it means something technically, it doesn't resonate with a lot of the folks we're trying to serve. So when I read what we drafted, I'll just use the region, which I'm using as a placeholder right now so that we can better define who it is we're trying to serve in the area around Portland that includes 3 counties and our neighbors to the north in Washington state. And I also suggested that we frame this vision from 2050, not because we don't need to have the short-term goals, but because we keep updating this thing every 5-year cycle. And That's important for the project list, but we're missing out on the longer term vision that could hold steady as a North Star.
Yeah.
So we wrote, in 2050, everyone in the region will have access to a safe, reliable, healthy, equitable transportation system, making it a great place to live, work, and play.
Thank you.
What I miss.
Table 1.
So as we worked on ours, we discussed how in some ways while a lot of the goals have changed in the last few years, our vision hasn't. It still has the same dream, long-term goal, and unconditional direction, which is key to a vision statement. So we added some words to provide some clarity. Although as I hear, other groups speak of just the region or the metropolitan region, that could provide a little bit more efficiency in this statement. But in 2040, everyone in the Portland metropolitan region will share in a prosperous, equitable economy and exceptional quality of life, sustained by a regionally balanced, reliable, healthy, accessible, affordable, and environmentally responsible transportation system. We talked and others about, do we include Vancouver? But then we aren't sure that Vancouver necessarily wants to be connected with our region in this way, nor do we want, our region thinking we're sending tax dollars up to Vancouver and Clark County. So that's why we left it, just exclusive to the Portland metropolitan region, although, region or metropolitan region would certainly, allow for the inclusion in a soft sense of Vancouver.
I see Margie. I'm reading Margie's body language, but you're going to have to come to a mic, Margie.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just want to speak real quickly to say that
Our designation, our federal designation as a transportation management agency, a TMA, which by definition includes City of Vancouver and our colleagues across the river. So there's a difference. There's an MPO across the river, RTC, and then you are the MPO on this side in Oregon. We both do RTPs, but then Metro and JPACT have an additional designation by the federal government that we are a TMA, which includes that whole area, which is exactly why we have 3 representatives from the Clark County side. So they are absolutely included in our vision. They're absolutely included in our goals. I just wanted to affirm that as we move forward. So that's all. Thanks.
Oh, yep. Margie, come hang with me for a second.
I just wanted to add in the context that are using the region instead of Portland metropolitan region is, respectfully, we love Vancouver, is less about Vancouver and more about folks who live, say, in unincorporated Washington or say unincorporated Clackamas County, who see the word Portland in big caps and then they tune out because they're not Portland. So that's where we got it from. So I think we're trying to solve the problem with one tool, but there's 2 issues there. One is that we have to better serve people who don't live in Portland proper and also acknowledge our neighbors to the north. That Summit?
Yeah, I think you captured it very well. I think, I think we have to just identify a less technical word to figure out who this MPO service. I live in Aloha. So how do our residents identify this vision that it's for them and about them? So I think that's what we were trying to get to, the mention of region, to identify folks in Clackamas County and Washington County and Multnomah County that might not live in Portland and may not know metropolitan region means. How do they fit in this vision? So.
That's a theme, frankly, a theme I wasn't expecting to come out of this conversation around vision, but it does indicate that this group is, I think, really interested in what's the human-centered way, like to tell this story of who's being served, who's at the heart of this RTP and not losing sight. I hear a strong theme of climate coming through in our conversation today, but also of people, and especially people who may not feel heard or seen or understood in some of the language that's used in these larger kind of big government planning projects. So it is an indication maybe of where this JPACT group and this Metro Council wants to go. And staff, I hope y'all got your work cut out for you to figure out how to put all these words together. So thanks for that. Folks, we're going to start to wrap up. It is that time of the day and y'all showed up bright and early this morning. So thank you so much for coming up to the zoo, for spending time in person today, for sharing your thoughts and your perspectives from around the region. A couple of next steps, and then I'm going to turn it to Councillor Craddock to formally close us out. So again, these things are all going to come back. So these goals, some of the priorities and ways to consolidate that you indicated today, also the reworking of the vision statement. Y'all know Metro has a lot of staff who are here to support this work, and they'll be taking the feedback that this group has given today and giving you something to respond to. So this will be coming back. You'll have an opportunity to kind of say like, yes, this did capture the spirit of our conversation, or actually, no, we need to continue to refine these things. And there are a series of workshops that are coming up over the next few months and into the fall that both the Metro Council and JPACT will be embarking on together. So we'll plan to see you in July to talk about the regional congestion pricing policy. And of course, if you do want to reach out to staff or you have additional questions, you want to talk to Margie about anything, y'all know where to find us. So please do get in touch if there's anything that rises to the surface or that you want to confirm. And we'll plan to see you on a monthly basis through the fall. A couple of kind of more logisticy things. There's a lot of food in the back, and we have some paper plates. So if you'd like to take some, if you have any like hungry coworkers in your home, if you're heading back to your home office or in your office, please do take some food on your way out. Jaye also dropped some, what are they called? They're called evaluation things, papers. Surveys. Thank you, Jaye. So we have some surveys on the table just to get some feedback on this format. Again, I think this is kind of one of the first times that this group is doing a hybrid, or not a hybrid, but a live streamed in-person meeting. So if you have any thoughts on how to make these spaces even more awesome, or your reflections, please do let us know. Also, leaving your name and your organization is totally optional. You do not have to leave your name, and we won't be analyzing your handwriting or anything like that. So you just leave as much information or as little as you like. And you can hand those to Jaye. Maybe if we can get those to Jaye in the back on your way out, or you can leave them on your tables and we'll grab them before we go today. I can hear the sort of nonverbal body language of folks are getting ready to go. But before we do, I'm going to pass it to Councillor Craddock to formally close us out and with some closing words.
Well, congratulations. We are an efficient group, got a lot done. So thank you so much for your time today. I recognize that for some of us, getting to the Oregon Zoo is a challenge. And so thank you for being here at 7:30 in the morning. I want to also thank those of you that are live streaming this and joining us today. And so I hope that those of you that are in the audience will also, in the virtual audience, will also give us input on what you've heard today, and also give us input about how we can improve the experience for you. Traditionally, we meet in a very large room, like at the Oregon Convention Center, and include everyone. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have pared this down. So we sure don't want to leave anybody out. And so please send any words of wisdom to us or comments, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being here today. I know all of you have many other responsibilities. And so I just really